What's going on, guys? This is Ryan McGuire here with another episode of The Positive Influence. On today's episode, I'm going to be talking about my recent study abroad trip in Ireland. I'm going to go in depth about the culture of the area, the highlights of the trip, and just my overall experience. So let's get right into it. So first and foremost, I'm going to be talking about the academic side of the trip. Obviously, this was a study abroad trip, so I did have classwork. I was taking a bioethics class based on the geography and culture of Ireland, which was a very interesting course. The overarching theme of the course was mainly how essential conservation of nature is to the Irish society and how much climate change is affecting their efforts to sustain things like beaches, trees, and different other kinds of wildlife. The professor of my course was actually an Irish native from the city Cork, so he has plenty of experience with this way of life where nature has such a big impact in everything. And he also has experience with different wildlife agencies that focus on conservation, and he was able to bring us to some of them. One of my favorite trips that we went on was to the Trolley Bay Wetlands, which was a conservation facility focused on agriculture, wildlife, and plant life. Throughout our tour of the area, we were able to see a lot of great landscapes and different views of the area, which was really beautiful. And one of the coolest experiences we had while on this tour was to visit their garden where they naturally grew different plants, fruits, vegetables, and we were actually able to try some of it. So it was really interesting to experience eating fresh grown fruit from the garden in Ireland, different types of Irish plants that were very important to their cuisine and their culture. Following our trip to the wetlands, we went to the Maharees beaches, which are actually threatened by rising sea levels. While we were there, we spoke to a local volunteer who helps aid in keeping the sea levels down and keeping the beaches alive. And he spoke to how important the beaches are to the local area, the local infrastructure, and all the people who live by it. Overall, the field trips were definitely my favorite part of class time. Just being able to see things in person and really feel the energy around you was something that I'll never forget. But everything I learned throughout my time in class was super interesting, just to hear about how intertwined Irish people are with their nature around them and how essential it is to their way of life was something really interesting to me, especially someone coming from the suburbs of New York City, where maybe that's not as essential to our way of life as it is to them. So just seeing a different perspective on life was definitely interesting, and I learned a lot about that from this class. During my time in Dingle, Ireland, I definitely picked up on a lot of differences in social culture compared to how things are in my life back home. A lot of them I really liked and I thought were really interesting to experience firsthand, so let's get right into that. One of the main things I noticed was just how outwardly friendly all the local people were to everyone around them. Even just in passing in the street, it was very normal for people to just greet you, which is not something you'd usually see in the States. But that was definitely refreshing to just have random people come up to you, start talking to you, greet you whenever you walk past them, and that was definitely an interesting part of the Irish culture. Another difference I noticed from American culture was when it comes to restaurants and going out to eat. It's much more of an intimate experience rather than how it is in the States, where there's a lot of fast foods and pick up to go places. Those didn't really exist in Dingle, Ireland. They expected you to sit down and enjoy the meal with the people that you came with and actually converse with them, because that's ingrained in their culture and that's the way they live. There wasn't really any options for takeout out of the restaurants that I went to. It was just expected for you to stay there, speak to the workers, speak to the people you came with. And I think this was really refreshing because that's something that we should do. And I think that's kind of drifted away from American culture. We don't have as many meals with our families. We don't have meals with people we go out with. We rely on fast food, going in and out and grabbing our food. And sometimes those are the best moments when you could sit down and enjoy a meal with people and talk to them and actually experience it rather than just grab something quick. Another big characteristic of Irish culture is one they're very well known for, their drinking culture, which I definitely partook in my time there. It varies from the way it is in the States. Obviously, people go out to bars and clubs in the States, but it's definitely more ingrained in their everyday culture in Ireland, and it's a way different experience than it is here. The pub, as they call it in Ireland, is something that is a daily thing. Most Irish people go pretty much every day after work, not necessarily to party, but just to spend time with friends, socialize, watch sports games, and it's much more of an everyday thing, whereas in the United States, it's maybe a once a week thing, a special occasion. But in Ireland, you could see the locals every single day, meeting up at the end of their work days, going to the pub, having a drink, having a laugh, watching a sports game, singing music. And I think that was just a really interesting part of their culture and their social life, because it's not something you really see in America, and it was very refreshing to be around and be a part of it for the short time I spent there. My actual experience going out at pubs was very different to what I would go out to in America. It's much more interactive. One thing I noticed was that the lighting is way different. In bars and clubs in the United States, it's very dark, dull. You don't really see the people you're around. At the pubs in Ireland, the lights were on, it was bright, it encouraged social interaction and encouraged conversation, which was something that was way different and super unique to experience and enhanced my experience going out in Ireland. One of my favorite parts about going out in Ireland was the live music. All of the pubs pretty much would have live bands performing traditional Irish songs, even some songs that we would request, but this was a way more interactive and inclusive experience than maybe like a DJ or a speaker at a bar that you would see in America. Actually seeing a live band play, taking requests, it really makes you feel more involved in the experience and enhances it overall. Another aspect that added to this was the dancing. There was a lot of traditional Irish dancing going on at these pubs while these bands were playing. I even got involved in it a little bit. It was a lot of fun to learn about and to experience and mess around with the Irish locals who were trying to teach me how to do it. But yeah, overall, the experience going out there is so much fun and so unique. There's a reason why there's Irish pubs all around the world, because everyone wants to try to encapsulate that feeling that you get going out to a traditional Irish pub. And it's not something you really see in America, and I will always miss my time going out in Ireland, and I hope to go back. When I look back on my time in Dingle, Ireland, I will always look back on it fondly. It was probably the best experience in my life traveling-wise. Coming from an Irish background, being able to go for the first time and experience it firsthand was something I'll never forget. I loved every minute of being there. I made a lot of new friends. I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about my heritage, my culture. I learned a lot about things that I like to do, and I will always remember this time that I spent there. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and stay tuned for more videos.